Hello, and welcome to the Noobie Dentist podcast, the safe place for newbie dentists to connect, collaborate, learn, and grow. The Noobie Dentist podcast aims to provide high-quality and high-value content for all the newbie dentists out there. With your host, Dr. Omid Azami.
Hello and welcome back for another episode of the Noobie Dentist podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Omid Azami, and I'm super pumped to be here with Dr. Darryl Torculas at Barbells and Burrs on Instagram. We are talking photography, GPR versus private practice, and the trials and tribulations of a new dentist. So I recorded this episode a while back and I realized I forgot to record the intro part. So we'll jump into the podcast now and we'll pick up where we left off.
Actually, dental school, I didn't even really know. So freshman year of college, I didn't know what I was doing. Bio major, UC Irvine, all the kids do bio, medicine. I don't know which one. And then what happened was, it was the summer of freshman year, was that 2008? I had a family friend and she was in the process of doing dentistry or application. And she was like, hey, she's doing this trip. Hey, I need someone else. I need like an extra person to tag along. And I'm like, okay. So I tagged along. It was a medical and dental trip combined. So I was on the dental side.
So this is like a mission trip?
From there, yeah, it's pretty much a mission trip. I'm pretty sure people with global brigades, global brigades, they do not just dentistry, they had medicine, water, architecture, and pretty much in third world countries. This one was in Honduras. So
awesome.
Went to Honduras for a week and pretty much did dental work with for 3 days. We had to bring in our own dentist. We didn't do the dental work. We assisted the dentist there because the whole can't treat patients because we're not dentists. So it's just a way to get in there, help around the community, So yeah, and then after that, decided dentistry. Worked on the application. The application part was kind of funny. So first I applied 2 cycles. The first cycle, I didn't know what I was doing because there was no handbook or anything like dentistry. This is what you do. Apparently there was a book out there that had all the stats of schools. Yeah. The GPA, average GPA, where people were coming from. My first time I didn't have that book the first cycle. So the first cycle, I applied to 10 schools and I just literally got the piece of paper and clicked. I'm like, oh, this school looks cool. This school looks cool. So I just clicked 10 schools. Next thing you know, I was like, oh, I rejected. I'm like, okay. I was like, what was I expecting, And then I had a friend I got in and he's like, this is what you should do. So he gave me the book, did my homework on schools. And this one was a lot more strategic. It cost me a lot more also. This one, 28 schools I applied to.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of money. 28 schools. Unfortunately, I didn't have to retake the DAT. So that was good. My DAT score was good, but the schools that I applied to the first time was out of my range.
You went for the top, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. The first cycle was like Columbia, Harvard.
Why not? Dream big.
Right? So it was huge. And then, so 28 schools, about 6 interviews, and 4 waitlisted. And then the one school was Indiana University. Shout out to Indiana fans out there. That took me, so I was waitlisted on them. And the cool thing about that school was they ranked me on the waitlist. So I was able to track where I was.
Oh, nice. That's nice,
and come March, I didn't even get in the first time. December 1st, kids got in, found out. Around March, I got in, and I was like, you know what? The rest is history. After that, 2 suitcases in the backpack. I'm flying to Indiana, first day of school. 4 years there, so graduated in 2016. Following that year, I went to Ohio State University for GPR residency. Yeah. And then after that, finished, moved back to San Diego.
Yeah. So you've been in private practice for like about a year now, less than a year, right?
No. Well, residency 1 year, and then I just moved back. So like 6 months.
6 months. Okay.
6 months, like 5 months in private practice.
That's awesome. Yeah, man. I had a similar so obviously I grew up in Canada. So I moved away and I went to London, Ontario. I went to Western University from undergrad, and
nice.
Yeah, so I did like a sports, like a kinesiology degree, and I wanted to do medicine like the whole time. So similar story to you. So I applied for like med schools here, and I got like waitlisted, and then the following year I applied again, and I got waitlisted. And then like it's getting so common, like so competitive now. People are like doing like master's degrees and like PhDs.
Right,
and,
right.
I'm like, man, I don't want to like waste time. Like I really have no interest in research or anything. I just want to like do what I want to do. So I started looking like overseas, like in the Caribbean and like stuff like med school or like
I mean,
like
that's a big trend too.
Yeah, exactly. In Australia and stuff. So I applied for Australia for medicine, and literally like I got the piece of paper for the application, and it was like MD, and then there was like a box for like DDS, and I was like, oh, I might as well tick it. So I ticked it like
you
never.
DDS?
Yeah.
Oh man.
No, I didn't even do the like DAT. I just luckily they accepted my like MCAT, and so I get my med offer. I'm like happy. I reached my goal. I put my deposit down. And then like a month later, I get like a DDS offer, and I was like, "Oh man, like what is this DDS thing? Like, should I do dentistry?" Like, I like met up with my friend's dad, and we kind of talked through it. And he's a dentist. My best friend's dad's a dentist,
right.
And he just said like, "Listen, man, like med's like so overrated. Just like do dentistry like so much better. Like everything's like work-life balance.
No,
like, you have the opportunity to do business. Like, you're not gonna waste time like doing like 3 or 4 years of residency after. Like you can like jump in and start working." And
unless you
like,
want to specialize.
Exactly, man. Exactly. So I was like sold like over like a dinner like at his house. I was like changed my whole like life trajectory. So I ended up doing dentistry, and I got pretty lucky because I actually like I do enjoy it and I do love it. So
yeah, it's funny that you say that because in undergrad I was working for an ophthalmologist.
Yeah.
He was teaching at USC, and he was like, "Hey, what do you want to do?" And I was like, "You know what, medicine or something." He even told me, "Don't do medicine."
It's funny. A lot of doctors say that. Yeah. So the first thing I want to sort of talk about, and I haven't really talked about it too much yet, like on the previous episodes, the fact that you did a GPR. So I want to see, was that something that I know, like in New York, for example, I've talked to a few people from there, like they have to do a GPR or residency. First of all, was it an optional thing for you, or was it a mandatory thing that you had to do to get your license?
That's like a bonus for me. So in California, you can either take the option to do GPR and then go back to California and practice. But the catch is you can only stay in California.
Yeah.
I wanted to keep my options open. So I also took the licensing for like the whole Western Regional Board. Okay. And so I keep my options open. But other than that, I just chose to do GPR, and they loved it, raved about it. And yeah, and then I wasn't ready to move back home. Being out there, experiencing life and actually feeling like an adult and being in school. Yeah. Like that was something I was like, okay, like let's not go home. Cause once I go back home, I'm not leaving. Like San Diego is home and move back home, and I don't think I'll practice anywhere else. So yeah, that was that. So yeah, it was just a personal choice. I love the program. I know some people, they always have the thing where it's like, oh, like you could learn a lot more in private practice than in GPR. Looking back on it, and when I hear that, there is some truth to that. Yeah. Right now in private practice, like learning the business side and doing all the, crown, same day treatment, that wasn't there in the residency. Residency was treating complicated cases, a lot of patchwork, a lot of surgery, sedation, and all that stuff. So 2 different animals. And yes, I know some people can learn more, but when I came out of residency, I wasn't afraid to treat the first patient that came in. It was easy. When you've treated a medically complex patients, and then patient walks in private practice, piece of cake. 2 different animals though. So
that's great. So if you like sort of like zoom out and like overlook the whole thing now, looking back, would you think, is it worth it in the end? Do you think, like getting that experience, like doing this?
Right. I'm the type of person that whatever's given to me, I'm going to enjoy it. One of us, we're going through it together. We're treating patients, experiences. Because then after that, you're real world private practice. It's like, all right, now things getting serious. And now I'm switching gears to private practice and the business world. And that, as before residency is like, you go in, you do your work. Some days are long, but at the end of the day, you have colleagues and you don't have to worry about so much because you're in residency. And residency was pretty fun. I love residency. So
that's good.
I got no complaints there.
And it's good. I think, what do you think the most valuable skill that you learn in residency would be that's like applicable like in private practice? Like, is it the surgical side of things where like you're comfortable like maybe tackling some like wisdom teeth, or like just like I think you're like maybe like you sacrifice a bit of income for that first year, right? So I want to see if it's worth like like everyone talks about ROI, right? Like you're giving up some, like maybe 100 grand of income, but are you gaining that much experience that you can come out of residency and like do like broader like scope of procedures because of it?
Right. So my residency was focused a lot on surgery and sedation. So the skills that I took home was IV sedation and doing a lot of surgery and not being afraid, of getting in there.
Yeah.
The rule of thumb there was if you touch a tooth, you're going to get it out. You're going to have to get it done. And so after a while, you build a confidence. I'm not afraid to touch any tooth, except for some thirds that are complicated, but that what you can and what you can't do.
Yeah.
Towards the end of my residency, I tackled more thirds. And so I got comfortable with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so to give you so for my residency, per month on a paycheck, it was $2,500 a month. Columbus was actually a nice city to live in, pretty cheap. So it was affordable. Rent was $1,000 and I had $1,500 to kind of figure out for the month. But some people don't like that. And you just have to kind of figure out what you want to do with the money. But it's residency, you're busy, you're doing a lot of things. So
I think it's invaluable. And IV sedation is pretty cool to have that, because the course itself, like I don't know how much it costs in the States, but like here, if you want to do the IV course, it's about like $20,000 for like start.
Oh yeah, so
like that's pretty valuable in itself, right? So
yeah. So like 16 grand, I think I had a buddy go through. It's like 16 grand.
Yeah.
And no, it's very valuable because if a patient comes in, and so like in our office, we do only oral sedation. So we give them Valium or Halcyon. Yeah. They can't tolerate that. Then we can pull out the IV sedation in our back pocket with the intravenous sedation. So that's always there. If huge. We can't get them.
I'd love to get into that.
But from what I've experienced, a lot of patients do really well with just oral sedation for thirds. So
yeah. Okay. That's good.
I haven't had to use it yet. I got my license and everything. So yeah.
That's good. Yeah. I recently, maybe like a couple months back, I got like my moderate sedation permit. So I can do like mix of like oral sedation and like nitrous at the same time.
Right.
So it's been good. I've done like a couple of cases where I've done like a couple like full clearances and stuff under it. And it's been pretty good. Like the patients, they cuss you out like while they're, but then they wake up and they're fine, don't remember anything. So it's good. Yeah. That's awesome, man.
Oh yeah. They love it. It's crazy. I'd say sedation. Get on sedation for you, for the fans out there. Even though you might not use it, it's just being able to have that in your back pocket to be like, what, this patient could benefit from it. You can treat a lot more people with that. So probably a lot more expensive in terms of supplies. So that's where it gets tricky. And then how to run your office with that. I know like for our office, the main doctor, he does Fridays surgeries. So he has it worked out where it's just sedation and he times it. Come in the office, take the pill, you wait about 30 minutes, they're in the chair, and then you're good to go. So it's just a matter of time management for that. And that's where it gets kind of tricky. So I can understand why some patients or some doctors don't want to do that, because then again, the return on investment in that, 2 hours for like a third, because then you're including time to do the sedation setup and everything, monitor and make sure they're okay to leave, versus I can do RCT, root canal, core buildup, crown prep in that time, and you're making a lot more. So
exactly, and it's like lower stress maybe than the procedure.
Yeah, for sure, lower stress and liability and all that. Yeah, man, but like I said, residency, you're not afraid to do anything. That's so good. After that,
you're protected under the umbrella of the hospital and stuff. So it's great.
I think that's why.
That's why I tell like every episode, I'm like, I tell dental students that they're listening, I'm like, just like screw up as much as possible in dental school, because the ramifications are like nothing, like unless like you get like a shit grade or something. But like you're out there, like you're pushing the limits, you're pushing your own comfort zone and getting better, right? So it's the best place to do it. 100%.
No, and I agree. And even in private practice, like I've messed up a lot more too, just thinking like, like I should have done this or I should have done that. And that just comes with it. The hardest part with messing up is just telling the patient, and being like, hey, I did this wrong, or like I messed up. This is how I'm going to help you, so.
Yeah, communication is so important, man. Like we've all been there, right? And especially like in our first year, like there's going to be times where you screw something up and you can't hide it. You gotta be
right,
up front.
For sure.
Tell them. That's cool, man. So you finished your GPR and then you head home. Talk me through like a little bit about like your like job hunting and like how you got your position. Are you working like, what's your job situation now? Are you like an associate in one practice, like full time, or are you kind of bouncing around between a couple of offices, or what are you doing?
All right. So start off with the job hunt. I started back in like January, February, earlier in 2017. Emailed the guy. I was like, hey, if that opportunity is still available. He's like, yeah, blah, blah. Like you shoot the email back and forth. And so it goes silent for a while. Then around April, May, I get an email saying, hey, the spot's still open. We're ready when you're ready to come back. So he was pretty cool. So I come back, do an interview. Not the hardest part. I just had to wait when I came back because I had to take the ethics exam in California.
Yeah.
And the crappy part about this was the ethics exam I had to take at like those prometrics, like official testing exams. So it was either Chicago. Yeah. It was either in Chicago or in California. And like I'm in Ohio. I was like, I'm not going to drive to Chicago just to take a test and I'm going to be going home anyways. So I had to wait. I had to do that, wait 4 to 6 weeks. So I started July, like August, first week of August, at his office. So he was pretty cool. They're brothers actually, and they were willing to wait. And then the whole process after that, it was good. The way I picked was they had similar experience. They went through dental school and then they went through residency, GPR. Yeah. And then they're looking for an associate. And then after that, that's pretty much it. It's pretty interesting how this model is, though. So what I'm pretty much doing is their workhorse. So like they pretty much do all the new patients and majority of treatment of hygiene. And then after that phase, they put them in my schedule of like this, like whatever the treatment plan is. Luckily for me, I've only had a few instances where I would treatment plan differently. Yeah. And that just comes with experience. They've had more time versus coming fresh out of school, everything's ideal. So I'm still applying that. And for the most part, they still practice that way too. It's just maybe I'm not used to that yet, or I haven't done enough work to see my work come back and be like, okay, maybe I understand why they do this. So that's the hardest part because I don't have that much practice in the treatment planning part because they see the new patients and then they just fill my schedule. So every day I'm doing like crowns, fillings, SRPs. I had to get comfortable doing cleanings again, prophies, because, like they'll just fill my schedule. So that's just part of the business.
So they don't, you guys don't have like hygienists working in your practice?
Oh, we do. So we have one hygienist full-time this whole week, and then there's 2 hygienists every Saturday. Yeah. But let's say like I have an opening on my schedule or like a patient cancels and then they want a patient comes in and is like, hey, can I get a cleaning same day? So we can either do that same day treatment or they have a system run where it's a recall system. And it's like, hey, you're cleaning, like we have this opening, this and this. So they'll just throw it on my schedule. I mean, it's cool. I know I have to
better than doing nothing.
Yeah, for sure. And that just gives me time to like practice. Like, hey, you need like when I see new hygiene, you also do your hygiene checks. So that just gives me practice to do that.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah.
So how do they allocate work? Like, is there certain stuff that like you said, you're doing crowns and stuff, which is pretty cool because a lot of times like the principal dentist will like keep crowns and just like hand over like fillings and stuff. So how do they like determine like what comes to you and what they do, or are they just focused on doing like more high yield like implants and like stuff like that at this point in their career?
Yes, it's kind of split. So there's 3 of us. One doctor he's pretty good in oral surgery, so he does a lot of implants and thirds. Yeah, I don't work with him on that day because we both are similar. In the way we practice. So he's at the other, so there's 2 offices we run. He's at the other office if I'm at one. Yeah. I practice with his brother and he did an ortho continuum. So he's pretty good in ortho. So he do all the ortho stuff. and the treatment planning, and I'll just pretty much do all the crowns, root canals, and everything else. The only thing I don't do is the maxillary molar endo.
Yeah.
Just because I take a little bit longer, and the other doctor who does the ortho, he actually likes doing that stuff. So like, I'll give that to him, and he'll give me everything else.
Okay.
It's pretty fair split.
That's pretty good. It seems like a good setup.
Yeah, it's a pretty good setup. And so I like it. I mean, they're keeping me busy. It's fine. I've gotten a lot better with my crowns. I'll be surprised. I'm like, man, I thought my stuff was good. And then, I see their work and I'm like, oh man, I can be a lot better.
So my crowns I got in for I've been working. So I graduated in Australia. So I went to Melbourne, like I mentioned earlier. So our school years are a bit different. So I graduated in December, and by the time I got my license and everything, I started working this past February. So I've been about 10 months in, and for the first few months, I didn't get to do much crowns at all. And then just this past 2 or 3 months, it's been sort of my case acceptance is getting better, and been doing more and more. And man, you realize after you do a few, and the stone model comes back from the lab, and you're like, man, this is an ugly ugly prep. So it's definitely a lot of room for improvement on those for sure.
Are you doing a lot of zirconias up there?
Yeah, I do a lot of zirconia. So most of my molars I'm doing zirconia. I've done a couple of 6s with Emax. But we don't have in the office that I'm doing a lot of crowns, we don't have a CEREC or anything like that. So we send it out to the lab anyways.
Right.
So I just,
I agree. I like the lab better than CEREC.
Yeah. So I've been doing, mostly for molars, mostly zirconia, and it seems to be working pretty well so far. I've had some issue with my temporaries, they keep coming off. So I don't know what's going on with that. I gotta read up on it. And try and sort it out. But that's for another. That's good, man. So I want to talk a little bit about your Instagram page as well. So I saw you had a cool post a while back, and that's I think that's when I started first following you and sort of messaged you. Is you had a pile of books that you're reading and sort of going through. So a few of those stood out to me because they're ones that I've read or heard about or interested in reading. Especially the Tribe of Mentors, which I'm a big Tim Ferriss fan myself. Especially being a podcaster now. I love that guy. And the side hustle books and it seems like you're into the whole startup side hustle thing. So what are you working on? What's brewing over there?
Yeah. To be honest, that's the thing that I'm working on. Let's see, the photography thing. So I took that course. You saw me take that course.
Yeah. I want to get into that in good detail.
And that was pretty much a game changer. Social media is where it's at, especially for dentistry when you're trying to separate yourself. It's it's pretty much showing your work and all that. And with what I'm doing, I think I'm just trying to work on how so the plan is to be private practice, to be an owner. So to go behind that really quick, my dentist is retiring. She signed her lease a few years ago, and that's a 5-year lease. So I think within the next 2 to 3 years, she's gonna start bringing me in and start seeing her patients. So just trying to get in. There's a lot of room for improvement in her office, so I'm just trying to figure out, how to change it up and bring it up to date. She's pretty old school. She just started doing a little bit more digital stuff. But I think that just working on that, trying to get ready for that. Hopefully I can kind of transition her practice into up-to-date technology and stuff. The whole Instagram stuff, I'm just working. I just did that back in dental school. I didn't know what to do. I love fitness. And then, I was like, hey, let's do something dentistry. So it's a kind of a mix. I haven't found my niche yet. And that's the past weekend. That's when I learned, it'll come. And they'll just come to me. So I just got to put out good content, and I think the whole focus there is just to connect with my audience, regardless of who it is, as me as a dentist. So that's for fellow colleagues. And then as a human, and everyone else. And that's pretty much it. And then the whole self-help stuff, man, I'm into that stuff. That's I
eat that up, man. I breathe that stuff all day. I love it. Yeah.
But not even just dental stuff. It's just anything that I can consume and like, better myself. I'm averaging 2 to 3 podcasts a day. Turn it on. I'm like, okay, maybe it's maybe a little something that's inspirational, like trying to get me going. And then on the way to work and on the way home from work, it's like something dental related. It's like, all right, like let's see what I can learn today about this dental business. And then whatever I can get my hands on, that's pretty much just consume. And then the books too. I mean, I have a pretty good library, and haven't gone through like most of the books, so I just need to get cracking on those, So I mean, it's amazing. That's how that stuff just helps, just trying to get better, and especially with dentistry, where we're always learning. I think that's where it comes from, the education, and then the dentistry part's the easy part. Yeah, anything else besides that? How to run a business, how to present yourself, how to treat others, how to communicate. I think that's where you can attract, the clientele that you want. Yeah. So I feel like if you work on that, they will come.
All right. But yeah, man, like we were talking about, I'm a huge fan of that self-help stuff as well. What podcasts are you listening to, like non-dental?
So non-dental, let me look through my podcast real quick. Let's see. Yeah. I got Tim Ferriss on there for sure. Shout out to Jocko podcast. I don't know if I
haven't heard that. What is that one about?
Jocko, he's like a Navy SEALs guy, so he's all about the art of discipline.
Oh, nice. That's really good.
So he talks about that, being disciplined, that ownership, owning everything that you do. Yeah. Especially when you come to dentistry, like you can't blame anyone but yourself. So you have to accept what you do and everything that you do, even though you might feel like you have to blame someone or feel like it's someone else's fault. At the end of the day, you are something responsible for them. So you have to figure out what that is and come to terms with that. And then the Joe Rogan Experience, he's pretty good. He's a pretty good, he's a pretty good podcaster. And then I got some fitness things. Other than that, that's pretty much it. Gary Vee.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you about Gary Vee. Do you listen to his stuff a lot, or?
I try to, put it on there. He's pretty good. I mean, just honestly, not so much. Like he's on the bottom, like on the back end of my stuff, but I feel like I should.
Yeah, man. Because I mean, I listen to a lot of audiobooks as well. Just because I drive a lot to work. Like I drive about like 12 hours a week, like back and forth, like to work and everything. So definitely podcasts and audiobooks. Like I'm huge into audiobooks recently. So I listened to his book, Ask Gary Vee. His like previous, he has a new one coming out soon too, but his previous book, and it's like upper alley, man. Like, I think you should check it out if you're into like the whole social media thing, marketing and building a personal brand and everything. He's pretty big into that space and has a lot of good insight. So it'll be good to check out. But
it's funny because like one of his things that he always says is like, why listen? Like, like he doesn't like, I remember him saying he doesn't read books, or doesn't do any of that. Why? Because he's like, I'd rather have you take action. And I'm like, okay, so
yeah, I like that.
Listen to him, but it's like, you told me not to listen to you. Like,
all right, it's cool, man. Him and Tim Ferriss, like I dig their stuff, and Tim's like a bit more like he goes deeper into his, and I like his like long form interviews. Like he sits down and talks to someone for like an hour and a half or 2 hours. And I dig that because I think it's like you get a good, you learn about that person like in a deeper level, and you get their insight, and interviews like pretty influential people too. So it's good to have those ideas like always floating around in your head, right? So
for sure.
Yeah, man. So with the Instagram thing, like you said earlier, like it is huge, and especially for dentists. It's so cool that we have this community, and I keep saying it on every show. It's so awesome how quickly things like grow as well. If you're like, following it up and putting the work in, things seem to be escalating pretty quickly. So if you're willing to put in the work, I think you can grow your page and go with it, because there's different things you can do. And like a lot of pages are more so like marketing for patients, right? So you're building
right.
Yeah. So you want to attract a certain clientele, so you sort of gear your content towards that. And others like what I'm trying to do is just like reach out to other dentists and build those relationships. Just for the podcast and for down the line, in case anything evolves from what I'm doing here. So that's good.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that social media stuff, like you got to keep at it. and sooner or later something's gonna click, and then next thing you know, you're like, shoot, I have something here.
Yeah.
And then just got to ride the wave with that. It's just about connecting with your audience, So I think once you kind of figure out what that is, and once I can figure out what that is, I don't even know what it is yet. It's like, all right, then you have a certain following.
Yeah.
And then that's pretty much it. You just go with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's cool, man. Like it takes time. Like, I had this idea of like, I mean, you've only been working for like 4 months now. You said you're gonna.
Yeah. 4 to 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like early days, right? You're still trying to like get your feet under you working, and then you can start to brainstorm a little bit. I was the same way. Like I knew I wanted to do a podcast, and I kept like procrastinating for the longest time.
Yeah.
And then finally I was like just offered us some drinks with some buddies from high school. And they're like, man, just like do it. If you want to do it, just do it. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll get onto it.
Yeah, you just gotta do it.
Yeah, man. Just like there's no way around it, right? Like everyone's just like waiting for like some perfect opportunity or like some magical sign that like they should go for it. But I think you just gotta like put pen to paper, and then hopefully things follow suit. And go from there. Good stuff, man. So let's talk about this photography course that you took. I was following you guys. It seems like you were there, and also Brian was there from SF Dental Nerd. So did you guys know each other from before, or you just like randomly met up there?
No, funny story was I was on Instagram, and I didn't know, like I followed him before.
Yeah.
And then I signed up for the course, and when I found out he signed up for the course, I was like, hey man, like I'm gonna be coming up, like where are you guys staying?
Yeah.
I was like, hey, we're staying at the I think the Hilton in my hotel class. He was like messaging, and he was like, hey, we're coming down the lobby. And then when I introduced myself, I was like, Darryl, and he was like, he kind of stuttered and was like, what? And I was like, oh, Barbells and Burrs. And it's amazing how like we connected through Instagram. Like there's a bunch of other people too, like Tech. Yes. He was a big one. And then, those 3 guys who taught the course, they were phenomenal. Dr. Adamo, Dr. Jesus, and Dr. Aguiar.
That's awesome.
Great stuff. So great stuff that they presented to. Really genuine guys. So yeah, it was pretty much like a social media kind of get together, if anything.
Yeah, I saw. I was pretty jealous. I'm like, man, I wish I was there. Like these guys are having a good time, learning like good stuff. So, so was a photography course like how to take pictures, or was it more, or also like how to incorporate it into like your everyday practice?
It was both. So the first day was broken down to how to take the pictures. So we went over the lens, and pretty much, I mean, I think you sent us tagged me and Brian on a picture of your camera lens, right? The 100 millimeter. Yeah.
Yeah, I just
that's
got
pretty
that.
much the standard lens that they're like, that's the only lens you're going to use for dentistry. So, and then we talked about different flash systems. So I don't know what kind of flash you have, but their main focus was on the twin flash setup. I have a ring flash. So
twin flash. Okay. Yeah, I just picked up a ring flash.
So ring
too.
flash, some of them like it, some of them don't. It's just a matter of how you use it. Ring flash. So ring flash, it's direct light. So it's a lot harsher on the teeth, but it's easy to use. Pull out your bag, couple seconds, you're set up. The twin flash, what they use, you got to have a little bracket, and then you have to set up and mount. More technical in terms of like, they get really creative with bounce the light off using diffusers and creating certain effects with the teeth. So that is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it just depends on what you want to do with it. And then after that, it all comes down to your lens. So your lens is pretty much important for the quality of the pictures. I have a 40D, so it's pretty old, but the lens is what makes it work in my flash. So, and then
so do you have the 100 millimeter macro as well?
Yeah, the 100 millimeter macro
you picked up, or?
And then my flash setup is a ring flash also. So
So what settings are they recommending? Because I mean, obviously, like I don't have like a really strong background in photography or anything. Like I had this camera from before, but just like for like whatever like family events and stuff, I would just take pictures here and there. Like I wouldn't like everything would be like fully automatic settings. Like I didn't really adjust it much. So obviously I did some reading and like, you know, different recommendations on like the ISO and like the and like the different types, like the white balance and all that. But like what, so do you remember like what settings they recommend for like basically like,
So let's
like a
see.
starter pack?
So
Kind of thing?
so the ISO pretty much is standard 100, 100 ISO. What it
Yeah.
gets tricky is your shutter
Yeah.
speed and your f-stop. And that's where you got to
Yeah.
kind of play around with. And they have different setups for like, are you doing just close-up teeth or are you doing like the full portrait? Portrait or like the shadow boxes. Like, you know, you could put a model and then black backdrop, take pictures of that. From what I remember,
Yeah.
So from what I remember, and don't quote me on this, I have to come back and we can give it to your followers. But I think so when we were doing the backdrop, like the little models and stuff, it was like between 22, like 18 and 22 for the f-stop. And then I left everything else at 100 ISO. And at 100, I forgot what the other setting was. But they're pretty similar. It wasn't, they weren't too far off. It was pretty much a few clicks here and there with the f-stop, and then you're good to go. Where it comes down to is also your flash. So like if you have a high flash, very strong flash, your shutter speed, you might want to like kind of increase that, make it a little bit faster, because if it's a little slow, you know, there might be too much light. So you got to kind of adjust.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. You got to adjust, you know, adjust on the fly. And like after a while, like during that day, like it was tough at first. In the morning, we were like, oh crap, like do I increase the shutter speed? Do I slow the shutter speed? Do I increase my flash? It's like so many factors. But then after that, it becomes natural. You just start moving things and you're like, okay, take a picture. Okay, take a picture. And then that's what you want. So you just gotta kind of play around with it. I'm still playing around with mine. I'm taking a few pictures this past week, just trying to get back into the groove. The key also with the photography, of course, what it says perspective. So like, I learned when I take my pictures, I have my patients laying down now flat, and I go over the head and then pop. Yeah, and then you have to angle. Yeah. So it's easy because you know how you try to like set them up and you got to climb over the chair, and then it's like, laying down. And then you just got to kind of like, you have retractors, clear retractors, by the way, helps. And then like the trick though is with the perspectives. So it's like they're laying down, right? You got to get at the angle where it kind of has that curve of speed, that smile that you like. And then when you take that picture, you take that, because you don't want a flat, like if it looks like a straight flat, like arch, that's not natural. So there's you take it with the angle, a little curve, and so that can be the tricky part. And they got mounts, they got everything. They you know, they have their own setup in their office. Not quite there yet, but I think for the most part, you know,
it'll come though.
And then you know, you just gotta get.
So did they give you like any so like in my situation, so I got the camera last week and I got the ring flash. So this past week, you know, I sort of brought it into the office. I'm like showing the assistants and like, so I want to, like the office that I'm sort of incorporating this is like a smaller practice. It's not like super busy, but I'm pretty much like when I'm there, I'm the only one there. So I sort of like see patients like start to finish. Like I do my own like new patient exam and like treatment plan, and I kind of follow through. So like it's not busy enough that I still have like, I can make the appointments a bit longer and I can like take my time to like figure this stuff out. So I'm trying to like see if there's any like actionable tips that they gave you guys, like how to like incorporate it into the practice, how to get like your assistant on board, and like how to get the patients on board with like consent or and all that stuff. So if you have any of those tips, that'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah. So I know we talked about flow, but let me get back to like the whole consent thing. From the biggest key that I got was just do it. Just act like it's part of the whole treatment plan, you know. And I feel like I probably have to double check, but the consents for that in my office. But I just take the pictures, you know, and then I'll show it to them. So I just act like it's part of the treatment. You know, I'll take a picture here and there. Like for example, the cosmetic, or was it the bleaching I did the other day? Like pre-op, I took a picture and I was like, this is just part of it, so that, you know, we can maintain and see it in progress. And then the workflow, I remember they were discussing, you know, like the best way to do it is have your assistants kind of do it, but at the same time, like you want to be the one doing it. So I guess maybe an extra 5 minutes, 10. Once you get down your setup, you know, and consistency, it should take like 5 minutes minimum. You know, just like they had like 6 main pictures that we talked about, but everything that we talked about was on the is based off the American Association of Cosmetic Dentistry. So like the 12 pictures that you got to take, pretty much. So that's what.
So this is like
they do.
But for like new patients, or like a frontal, like a left buccal, right buccal, like occlusal, is that type thing, or?
Yeah. And that's what they do. That's what we were discussing for like the accreditation stuff. But they said they take like at least 6. So like they got the smile, you know, they got the lateral, the buccals, and then occlusal. So 4 or 5. Yeah. So about 6, you got the smile and then like the full face. So, and that's pretty much it. And then usually like, so what happens is your new patient walks in, and then usually it's the assistant doing the face, like the portrait set, and then you can go ahead and finish with what you need. And do you do intraoral photography in your office? Because that could help a lot, you know, just in terms of showing.
Exactly. So we have, so every new patient that we have, pretty much, I think in all my offices, like, they'll do like the full mouth series, like radiographs, and then they'll also pretty much take a photo of every tooth, like intraoral camera. So that's why I wasn't sure, because we already have like the intraoral. Obviously, the quality is like much different to like, you know, what we can get with like our macro lens. So I wasn't sure how to like incorporate the camera on top of like the intraoral photos that we already do. So I need to sort of work that. I got my initial thought was,
I feel like if anything.
I was saying is like my initial thought was maybe I'll just keep the camera like in my room for treatments, and I'll just take pictures of my procedures just for like my Instagram page or whatnot. Not so much for like you know getting case acceptance or like dental records type thing. But I think
and I think that's, I mean, so you could go about that 2 ways, you know, like the portraits and all that. But for like if you're doing cosmetics, for sure, you know, like you want that high end, like to show them the detail and everything. But I agree with your procedures, easily like in between patients or while they're waiting for the patient to get numb, you know, I almost have a picture of this before picture, and then, you know, finish your prep, 2 seconds. As long as you get it right. I think the hardest part too, or the key part, is getting your assistant and having them learn how to hold the retractors the right way. And once they know how to do that, you can just go ahead and like set the retractor, and then you can just like start clicking away. And it doesn't take much time. I think the patients would actually appreciate it. You just got to do it and be like, hey, you know what? Like, this is for record. I want to see what's going on. Keep track of my work.
I think that's cool. I think it's exciting. Like it's a fun new addition to like my like work life now. Right. So, I'm excited to like play around with it and get a bit better. And it's inspiring too, because like you see so much like fantastic photography on Instagram, like from other dentists, and like so it's kind of motivated me to like try and do better work and like take better pictures and share that. Because like right now I just like I pretty much use like either the intraoral camera and like just post that picture, which is like terrible quality, or in the odd cases, like I'll just like use my iPhone if possible, and like I'll take a picture, and that just looks like really really unprofessional to the patient. I always say, I'm like, I forgot my camera today, so I just gotta use my phone, and like, it's fine.
And sometimes we get lazy, you know. It's like, do I really want to bust on my camera and take this? But the extra minute or two, it's worth it.
It's a clunky piece of equipment, so take care.
Yeah,
awesome stuff, man. Thanks a lot for coming on. It was awesome to talk to you. I like your energy, and I like sort of what you're doing, and I hope you keep growing, and I hope you find a direction with your barbells and burrs page.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I mean, it's just out there. So like, just trying to figure out what to do. I mean, it's hard because like I try and do fitness, but at the same time, like I don't want to have someone. It's hard to take videos of yourself at the gym.
No, you just got. I think there's like the hump. You got to be that guy, right? You got to just do it.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, man, I would like, oh shoot, like, and usually there's like, if I had a workout partner, you know, like that could happen, but like I'm always usually working out by myself because I get home at like 7, go to the gym around 8, you know, and it's like, man, like I don't want to be that guy set up the tripod or like mount it somewhere, take the picture, or
Get the GoPro
video,
going.
and then go back and then So I might have to, just like I said, just got to do it.
But I think I like brainstorming and stuff because I guess something I'm pretty like passionate about. So there's like the yogi dentist, like she's like doing pretty well right now with her page. She's actually coming on the podcast in a few weeks, so it'll be interesting to talk to her and see where she hopes to go with her page. But like, would you want to create like a general fitness page or like a fitness? Like, it'd be cool. I feel like it'd be cool because like no one's done it to like create like a fitness page like for dentists, like how to stay fit as a dentist, how to like core strength, like around the shoulders, like that kind of thing to like work that stuff out. I think that'd be pretty cool idea.
Or like to help with like dentistry. I mean, I've thought about that. Yeah. Like just to help dentists, like, hey, like, like the whole round and back. We got that dentist. I don't know if you heard of angle neck. If you've seen dentists, like instead of using indirect vision, they always try to go direct, like kink in their neck. Have you seen those? Like, so, stuff like that. So you might actually have something there I can probably use. I just gotta figure out how to use it. I'm into the whole Olympic weightlifting stuff, so I gotta figure out how to incorporate.
Like it's more work, but there's no reason why you can't have like separate pages, right? So you can kind of, I guess, do a bit of each.
Right. Yeah. No, and I feel like that's also like that's like my personal and like I guess dental page. So like I also like struggle with like should I separate my personal life with the work?
I have that. I have one that I have like.
Because I want to show both sides.
Like I have my own like personal one that I've had since like for the past 7-8 years. And I used to, like when I was in dental school, I would post like my tooth pictures on there, and like a bunch of people weren't happy to I wake up and I'm like scrolling through like seeing puppies and like cupcakes, and then there's like a random like bloody tooth on the tail. Like, I don't want to see that shit. So I started a separate one, but I think that's a good idea. I think you can like separate it up and then kind of grow both and see where it goes.
Okay.
Try it out, man.
Yeah, for sure. I'll take that up on you, and then I'll.
Yeah. And there's no like I mean even with this podcast, like I've already like I feel like I've like pivoted like a couple of times like within the podcast, and like I'm introducing like this like the Dentist of Instagram series right now, because I mean there's so many podcasts out there, and I'm trying to like differentiate myself somehow. And
that's the key. It's
exactly. So I think like I want the podcast to be like tightly intertwined with like Instagram. So like like pretty much all the guests are from Instagram. Most of the listeners are from Instagram. So I think it's becoming something. So I'm excited to see sort of where it goes, and hopefully keeps growing, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, you have something here, or it's like new dentists. So like when you target new dentists, like I came back to San Diego. I'm like, where's all the young professionals?
Man, and that's also like the main reason was like, so I graduated in Melbourne and I like come to Canada. I'm like, I have no dental friends, like no one to like grab a beer with and like talk like, oh man, I had like a shitty like root canal today. Like it was a rough day, or like, you know what I mean? Like, man, there's no one to like talk to like about that kind of stuff. Right. So that's why like, hopefully this podcast like fills that void a little bit.
Yeah, and it's amazing how social media nowadays, especially Instagram, can connect.
It's so good, man. I love the community, and there's great people on there, and they're always there to help you out if you got questions and stuff. So, I think it's a golden age for that type thing. So we'll see where it goes. Awesome, buddy. Awesome. Thanks a lot for coming on. Stay in touch, and hopefully in a few months we'll touch base and see how you're going. Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on.
Take care.
Bye. All right. Take care. You too.